Hey there, and welcome to episode 2 of the Power of Practice podcast, the 5 pillars of empowerment.
Welcome to the Power of Practice podcast with Matthew Tweedy. Discover how to leverage the potential of your unconscious mind so you can create an abundant and empowered existence. Here's your host, Matthew Tweedy.
Hey there, and welcome back. Thanks for joining me for this session. And today, even though the last episode was called The Premise, this really is the premise beyond the premise, because last episode, I guess I wanted to introduce myself first and foremost, and also just get a podcast out. I've been so wanting to do this for so long that it certainly, I figured the first dive into the unknown was the most challenging, and I can agree with myself there. It was. Now, as I got things moving, it really forced me to think clearly on exactly what I wanted to achieve. Certainly, it's all about making life easy and empowering oneself through persistence, dedication, practice, and grit. All those things that make us get what we want in life. Watch out for those rhymes. They might come from time to time. But yeah, it's an aspect, it's all of those things that I want to share with you that make continually and have made my life easier. Now, if anything, you could think of them like mental muscles, beliefs, frames of thinking, and the way that I have perceived the world, a lens that I've perceived the world through that have enabled me to really create the outcomes that I want in life. I was fortunate enough to stumble across many of these studying NLP and hypnosis for myself, not for my clients per se, certainly not to begin with, but then as I started to view the world through this lens and use these particular, rules, if you want to call them that, but they're really keys to success, in my opinion. And I call them the 5 pillars of empowerment. These were adapted from my school of NLP. A lot of the presuppositions within NLP, the major presuppositions of NLP, they certainly have their own set of keys to assist you to get outcomes. And then doing change work with people, there's also that element of what we call the 3 major requisites of change. If you're a client, you'd be familiar with these 3. And I've kind of taken the 3 major requisites plus some NLP major presuppositions. And on top of all of that, I've also, just been doing a lot of studying into esoteric teachings and I guess even some other philosophical notions, I guess you could put it. And it's led me to a distillation or distilling down, as I was about to say a moment ago, mixing it all into a pot, reducing it to some keys that I call now the 5 pillars of empowerment. And it's really these 5 pillars that the whole podcast is going to be continually reflecting and referring back to. In fact, most of the things that most of the frames of belief that I subscribe to, most of the ways of thinking that I choose to view the world through, you can tie back in some way, shape, or form to these 5 pillars of empowerment. And as I mentioned, they just make my life easier. So I want to share this with you so it can make your life easier. And then certainly when we get to interviews, which is just around the corner, I've got a few exciting interviews lined up. I won't share anything now. We'll wait and see how everything develops and pans out, but certainly many on the horizon of successful people. And I want to, successful people in any area of life, whether it is business or health and fitness and in that sporting arena, or family, parents that are just really in the zone and in the flow of things, relationships and people that are really doing well in that department, spirituality and personal growth, across all contexts, really speaking to these people that I revere and admire and respect, and just chatting to them about their story, how they've been able to achieve what they have achieved. And then I really want to tie it back to these 5 pillars, because I know through studying excellence in all areas and just looking at people that I respect, I can always see that they're doing these things unconsciously. And I guess my aim through this podcast is, with the interview aspect of it, to actually tie them back to these 5 pillars, to enable you to be able to decodify what excellent people are doing and really make sense of these 5 pillars so that you can too achieve the same success that, all these people that I respect and I suspect that you will also respect and find interesting how they use them to create success in their life. So let's get into the 5 pillars. The next 5 episodes, or at least 4, are going to be specifically directed at each one of these pillars. The next one coming up will be on cause and effect. So I'm going to dive straight into that now. And I'm just going to skim over these presently, because we're going to be doing a deep dive into each one of them in the episodes to come. So the first of the 5 pillars is the frame or the belief of cause and effect. Now, cause and effect is really about taking maximum responsibility for your world, for your results in your universe, to empower you rapidly and easily. So number 1 is cause and effect. So look out for that episode dropping real soon. I may well either do it directly after I drop this one, or otherwise in a week. I'm still up in the air on how I do that, but I want that content to be out there for you to be able to take advantage of, which is why I'm thinking about doing that momentarily. The next of the 5 pillars is actually a frame or a concept from Jungian psychology, and this is perception is projection. Perception is projection is super interesting. It is certainly not for shallow thinking. It will test you at times. It certainly has tested me. It allows you to really look inside and do deep introspection work for the purposes of, well, again, growing and evolving, so that you're not pointing the finger out at someone else and blaming them. Very similar to cause and effect. And the power in both of these frames is that you're not giving your power away. See, whether it's cause and effect, taking maximum responsibility for everything that happens in your universe, or whether it's perception is projection, both of them enable an individual to very rapidly stop playing the blame game and start taking responsibility so they can take their power back, or so that you can take your power back. So again, perception is projection will be the next one up on the roster after cause and effect. The next of the 5 pillars is number 3, And I'm actually just giving it an arbitrary number. They're in no particular order, although cause and effect is really nice to start with because it is so powerful and so foundational. Number 3 is focus on what you want. And as I often say to my clients, and you may or may not find this for yourself, this concept is on the surface one of the most simple, although when I first learnt and it was first introduced to me, was one of the most frustrating at times. And essentially, focus on what you want is referring to the fact that anything that we focus on in our lives, in our worlds, tends to grow. We tend to create more of that. One of the major presuppositions in NLP is that human beings are biological devices designed to create outcomes dependent on where our focus is. We create outcomes dependent on where our focus is. And as you begin to learn more and more about the unconscious mind, one of those things that you will learn quickly is that your unconscious mind cannot process negations. Meaning, if I tell you, don't think of an orange elephant with a green trunk, what do you think of? Exactly. You can't not think about something until you think about it first. And this is important because if you focus on what you want, you will create more of that in your life. And if you focus on what you don't want, exactly, you're going to create more of that. So this is, as I mentioned a moment ago, on a surface level seems super simple, although it does take some work to really digest and apply. And that's the same for all of the 5 pillars, honestly. They are metaphorically like muscles. You will need to put conscious effort into them, and some of them at times will become more unconscious and automated, but honestly, they're always going to require work. That being said, the payoff is exponentially huge. It grows and grows and keeps giving and giving back like compound interest. So I guess that's why I'm so passionate about these concepts, these frames of thinking, and equally so why I want to share them with you. Moving on, the next 2, I'm going to join at the hip because, they're extremely powerful independently, but they do work beautifully synergistically. So number 4 and 5, we're going to often be tying in together, but they certainly stand alone too. Number 4 is taking action. Taking action. Again, sounds so simple. Go and do it, right? Although at times doesn't seem that way. And taking action, I like to refer to it as the secret behind the secret, because if you've read the book The Secret or watched the movie, lots of wonderful and beautiful concepts and strategies, vision boards and so on and so forth. I'm a big believer in vision boards. That's a big part of focus, which was, the last pillar that I just discussed. And it's all about manifestation. Though one of the secrets behind the secret, the things or critical factors that they left out was taking action. So if you were to go ahead and pick up the secret and apply everything inside of that school of thought, the one missing key would be taking action. You cannot manifest anything in the physical plane without taking action. It's got to come from spiritual plane, through the mental, through the emotional, and then down to the physical. Now, that's some esoteric stuff. I'll be talking more about the 4 planes of existence later, but let me not digress too much at this point. and just stay with that. Taking action is key to manifestation, to abundance, and all those wonderful things that I'm sure you want in your life. So be aware of that and know that it is extremely important. And it does sound like a no-brainer, but you'd be very surprised as to how many people forget this part when it comes to creating any kind of outcome they want in their life. And that leads me to number 5. Number 5, which is directly related to taking action, and it's all about boundaries. Enforcing your boundaries. Do you know about boundaries? Have you heard about the concept? Many people have, and many people have not. I'm going to give you a quick overview as I have with the previous, and we'll do the deep dive soon. Boundaries are what you are willing to accept and reject from other people. Someone treating you like a doormat, that's a boundary violation. You treating someone like a doormat equally so is a boundary violation. You're violating other people's boundaries if that's the case. If you want to manifest or create anything in the physical realm, it is so important, in fact vital, to have good boundaries. Clean, clear, and paradoxically so, flexible. You must have boundaries. You must say to others or yourself or the universe, hey, this is what I want, this is what I am willing to accept, and this is what I am not willing to accept, or what I reject as far as what's acceptable. If we're too firm with our boundaries, that can also yield its own issues. And that's something I think for the deep dive. But for now, it's just really important to cover it, and being number 5 of the 5 pillars, boundaries. And to tell you the truth, boundaries are a topic in and of themselves. They go so deep. I mean, the topic goes so deep, and I can speak for a long time on this topic. I've been known to, certainly. Though this is not the time to go deep, but certainly to explain it, to make you aware of it, and just to know that, if you want anything in this world, the universe will test you. And that's what boundaries are about too. There will be times you will be tested around the goals that you set for yourself in any context of life, and ensuring that you are clear, firm, and flexible with your boundaries is the difference that makes a difference when it comes to manifesting and creating and ultimately being empowered, having people treat you the way you want to be treated and vice versa. So that's the brief overview of the 5 pillars, these concepts, these frames and beliefs that I'm going to be tying everything back to throughout this journey of the podcast. There's a lot in each one of these, and I really look forward to providing you with that additional depth and explanation in the episodes to come. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, if you're enjoying the journey, then go ahead and rate and subscribe. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That's really important. Easy to do. Depends on the app that you're on. If you're on Apple, you can just slide on down to the bottom and hit 5 stars. If you're not, it might take you a little bit longer, but I'd really appreciate that effort and energy. So rate and subscribe, but specifically just hit that subscribe button. Super important. And thanks in advance. For now, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. This is Matthew Tweedy saying ciao for now, and keep growing and evolving.